Is the Deuce Night Smoke legit this time?
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie Five, and we're ready to get after it on this Wednesday. Another day, another week, and another some more Deuce Night Smoke billowing. This time, could it be legit? Could it be nearing an end? We'll break that down and discuss it. But before we get started, we got to give a shout out to mybookie.ag. Use coupon code NEXTROUND for a double up deposit bonus. Give them $200. They're going to give you another $200 back on top, up to $1,000 to play with absolutely free just by using that coupon code. All the sports betting lines you could ever imagine, college-wise, NFL-wise. There's playoff baseball right around the corner. All kinds of stuff that you can get in the action on at mybookie.ag. Just make sure that you use that coupon code bonus and have some fun. Get in on the action. So yesterday, a lot of smoke has started to billow again around Deuce Night. What's funny is just the day prior, I guess the show was yesterday, but the recording was back on Monday. When I recorded with Zach, we talked for Locked on Auburn on Tuesdays. We talked about this, and I just was frank. I said I felt like my confidence was waning a little bit in Deuce, and then all of a sudden yesterday, a lot of smoke started to come out. You started seeing a lot of talk on Twitter, and Deuce has facilitated a lot of this with his, Instagram comments and things like that he's been doing for multiple weeks. He just came off of his official visit. So when you go on official visits, you can have those photo shoots on an official visit. That was one of the big rules they changed. You can't do it on every visit. But when you come in for an official visit, you can do those photo shoots. You start putting out some pictures in uniforms. He's wearing number 2, which we'll see if that's actually the case if he ends up at Auburn, because that number's been sort of in purgatory for a couple of years, for I guess 14 years now. But yeah, it's starting to pick back up, and I know a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes like, oh, here we go again. And I totally understand it, because this story has been kind of wild. And I just want to really backtrack it really quick and talk about how we got here. I don't want to go through all the details, because if you want to get all the details on how we got to this Deuce Night situation, we did a show like around end of June, beginning of July, when the Juju Lewis saga was closed. And we said, what's the next moves? And we did a whole show on Deuce Night. And we talked about how, this guy could have been in the class last football season. And I think it was probably very close to happening. He's very close with a lot of the 2024 commits, Perry Thompson. He was close with Ryan Williams. He's close with Alvin Henderson, obviously, which is a 2025 commit. But he was very, very tight. He loved what he was seeing out of this. He loved what he was seeing that Hugh was building in that 2024 class. And I think he wanted to be a part of it. He transferred from his high school to Lipscomb Academy, which is sort of like an IMG on a smaller scale. 10 days before his start of his football season, played maybe 3 games and then transferred back. And I think overall just didn't have a incredible season. Had a really good season, but not a great season. I think Auburn just kind of let's take a little bit more wait and see with Deuce. Let's see how he develops. And then obviously Auburn started chasing other quarterbacks. So you went after Hassan Longstreet. You went after Juju Lewis, and neither one of those panned out. So you're sort of left with a really good option that you already have a relationship with, and that's Deuce Night. And talks started, and they got heavy, and they got heavy quickly. You had the whole secret Big Cat weekend visit. Did he visit? Did he not visit? And then you lead up to the football season to where There's been crystal ball predictions. There's been, national analysts saying it's happening this weekend. And there honestly, we've talked about it where Auburn has felt like multiple times throughout the season that, hey, this is the weekend. We've had 5 home games. He's been to 4 of them. And, every single time it's felt like this is the weekend. This is the weekend that it's going to happen. And it would continue to just, he's not ready, or it would just continue to sort of lag to the point where now you're starting to be concerned. Is this actually an option? I mean, he's acting like a commit. He's interacting with Auburn commits. I believe there's credible talk that he's basically looked at. He's basically saying he's the Auburn quarterback, of this class. Like, I think that's a very, very credible. I think that's very credible that's conversations like that are having. Maybe even conversations like that are having with other recruits that are uncommitted or committed elsewhere. So he's doing all these things that are very pro Auburn, pro in the direction that he's going to end up at Auburn. But he's not pulling the trigger. He's not doing the flip. Well, the smoke started to rise again yesterday, and it got very intense, to the point where I think Notre Dame has even taken a kid that plays quarterback in high school. Now, he's being recruited as an athlete. But the timing was interesting. Maybe that's a commitment that's been lined up for a very long time. But the timing yesterday of when the talk started to get at its peak, and then Notre Dame accepting that commitment seemed rather intriguing. And I have people that I talk to that are unbiased. Okay, they're not Auburn, they're not Alabama. They're not Notre Dame. They're not anything. They're just sort of in the national media that say that we're consistent that Notre Dame has had no faith that they would be able to retain, that they had been able to retain Deuce. And when you take that information and you see this kid's commitment, it makes it seem like, okay, maybe it is moving in that direction. And to top all that off, they also, are saying that, hey, this may be legit this time. This one, this time it may be legit. Like this, it could be. Notre Dame may not even be in the top 3 right now to land Deuce, but it does seem like maybe things are moving in the Auburn direction, which is refreshing, because those same people, even when the Auburn confidence was at its high, and even I let myself get in the bug on some of the Auburn confidence, they were constant. Like, hey, I just don't think it's going to happen this weekend. I know Auburn's saying it's going to happen, and that was for multiple weeks. They remain consistent, and then now I think the tune's changing a little bit. So maybe Auburn is getting close to pulling off what would be a really, really big addition. It would garner a lot of headlines. And, even Hayes Fawcett last night tweeted, hey, it's flip and decommit season. And I know that could go for a number of players, but again, all the timing, Notre Dame taking a commit, the smoke billowing at around the same time. And then, Hayes Fawcett putting out his I guess engagement, bat signal type stuff. It does seem like maybe it's moving in that direction. And I think that would be something sorely needed, sorely needed for the Auburn fan base to show, I guess, to show that you're not giving up on the recruiting class, that the recruiting class could be solidified. And we'll talk about what all the different things that it would mean if you were actually able to pull off this commitment. But how is the question? How did you do, if it were to happen, how were you able to do it? Momentum and leverage are something that are monumental when it comes to recruiting. Okay, you got to have momentum and you got to have leverage. Okay, and Auburn at this point in time has neither. You had no momentum. You did have the Elijah Melendez commitment earlier in the season, which was big, but you've had visits after visit after visit. You've had guys that were close to flipping that aren't flipping. I can think of guys like Sam Turner. You've had a lot of targets that have come in and said good things, and you've had targets to come in and say some things that aren't as good. So you're at the point where you don't have a lot. You just didn't have a lot of positive momentum in the recruiting, like in the recruiting at all at this point in time. You have a fantastic class, unbelievable class as it sits. I want to continue to pound that in. The best class that Auburn's ever had is committed right now. If you don't add a single soul to it. Okay. So you don't have the momentum and you don't have any leverage. Okay. When you're in recruiting, especially now in the NIL era, leverage is very, very important. Whether that be leverage for, hey, we're winning, it's exciting, we've got something to sell, that there's leverage there. Oh, we're starting to pop off multiple commits. You better jump in. There's leverage there. Or, hey, if you don't jump in, we got to go elsewhere. We got to find another quarterback. There's different ways to create leverage. And at this point in time, maybe 2 weeks ago, or not even 2 weeks ago, maybe less than 2 weeks ago, Auburn had none of that. You were losing games that you should have won, even though you looked decent on offense at times, minus the turnovers. You didn't have that momentum. You didn't really have a line of commitments left to point to say, hey, we've got guys lined up. We got some leverage there, and you don't really have another quarterback on the board. Like, it's basically Deuce, and that's it. And I think what has happened, my opinion, is if this thing works out, what has happened is Hugh has had to go out and try to create some leverage, create a little, and in turn, hopefully create a little momentum. And if you remember, if you pay attention at all, if you're on the barn, auburn.com, I want to say a couple of weeks ago, maybe not even a full 2 weeks ago, you started to hear a little bit of chatter around Juju Lewis again. Auburn talking to Juju Lewis, Auburn having communication with Juju Lewis, maybe even Juju Lewis reaching out to Auburn and it be legitimate. And you started to see Juju Lewis interact a little bit more with Auburn guys on social media. And you started to really hear some momentum picked up there to where, maybe Auburn could pivot here. And if you got to get somebody, I think if all things were equal, Juju Lewis would pick Auburn anyway. Like, I think he really likes Auburn. I think he really likes a lot of the commitments. I think he really likes a lot of the guys on the roster already. Likes the idea of being able to throw to, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, those guys. So you can see why Auburn would be appealing to him. And then obviously the path to playing time seems like it would be there as well. So the momentum with Juju started to pick up. And then to the point where there was some credible chatter, I feel like, over the weekend that maybe you could just go ahead and fully pivot, fully go to Juju Lewis and have a better than maybe 50% chance to land him. Like, there was some really credible chatter that, hey, I think this is about to be the move. I really do. I think I think there's momentum in that direction. I think this is about to be the move. So all of a sudden now you have a little bit of leverage on your side, and it's legitimate, not just fake, not just lying, like legitimate momentum, not momentum, legitimate leverage at the quarterback position. Now you've got Juju Lewis, who possibly wants to jump in. And then as the confidence was waning over the weekend, all of a sudden it skyrocketed. It's skyrocketed with Deuce. So that's one thing that you have to always be able to maintain, especially now, is leverage. And I think that out of probably a little bit of luck, a little bit of situation, hard work, they were able to maybe create a little bit of leverage with the Juju Lewis situation and sort of light the fire under Deuce a little bit to go ahead and maybe get closer to making a decision. So again, this has been a battle. This has been a tough little stretch since the season started, because you sort of lost a lot of the luster. You sort of lost a lot of the, potential to really blow this thing out. I mean, you were talking about a potential to go on a run, and it was very credible. It's not pie in the sky stuff at chasing the number one class. And then if you're 4-1, and just knocked off Oklahoma or something like that, or 5-0, which you should be anyway, based off of the performance and limiting turnovers. If you're 5-0, like you're at a fever pitch of momentum right now that it's tough to beat. But that obviously didn't happen. So now you got to kind of create your own momentum, kind of create your own leverage, and we'll see how this plays out. But I've got my eyes and ears open big time now. The last several times I've been excited, but I've still had some conversations that led me to believe that, hey, look, somebody's reading this situation wrong, okay? Because I don't feel like this is going to happen with Deuce. And if you follow the Barn, if you're a member at the Barn, Auburn.com, every time that Auburn's got excited and saying it's going to be a flip, I've consistently put on there, hey guys, look, I know elsewhere, I know that people are saying it's going to happen. I know people are saying they're very confident it's going to happen, but I'm telling you, it's not going down this weekend. I've consistently had those conversations throughout the week, but now I think those conversations are changing. I really do. And I think that maybe we're getting close to seeing something happen. So what would this mean to the class? What would this mean to overall? We'll talk about that in just a second. But before we do that, we got to give a shout out to our boy Ford Stokes with retirement results presented by Active Wealth. What are you doing if you're not 1,000% sure about your retirement, about your savings? Is it performing at an optimal level? Are you paying senseless fees? Like, that's something that I would want to that's something that I would want to triple check. Make sure, hey, are there little things that I'm losing on that I don't have to be losing on? Like, you can have that analysis absolutely free by just going to retirementresults.com/plan. If nothing else, what if you're losing a little percent here or a little percent there just to fees when you could be eliminating them? I mean, it's something that it just seems like common sense to me. Definitely check him out, Ford Stokes with Active Wealth. Tell him War Eagle, tell him I sent you. Make a good friend at the same time as Ford Stokes with retirement results presented by Active Wealth. What would this mean for this class? What would this mean for the recruiting outlook for the rest of the rest of the season in leading up to signing day? Look, there's no question about it. A quarterback is a foundation. A quarterback breeds confidence. A quarterback breeds solidarity. Unites. A quarterback is big. That's why quarterbacks are so important to get in early and build around. I mean, that is very, very important when you're recruiting. And Auburn's had some bad luck in this recruiting cycle landing a quarterback. I mean, you could have had a couple early. You've sort of chased the higher end guy in your mind on your board. It may not be the higher ranked guy, but the guy that you have at the top of your board. You've gone after those. You've had some snags, and now you have a chance to land a guy in the middle of a little bit of turmoil when it comes to the season, when it comes to the fan base being divided. There couldn't be a better time than to pull this off, especially you're about to go on you're about to have another tough game against Georgia, that you're a 24-point underdog that doesn't look great on paper as far as the possibility to pull one out on the road. You haven't won there in forever, and you don't play well there at all. So it's going to be another weekend of toxicity, another weekend of negativity, understandably so. So being able to possibly add a 5-star quarterback in the middle of that to the class right there, that at least continues to point to the fact that Hugh Freeze knows how to build, or knows how to get the players to start building this program back through the high school ranks and not just go get a bunch of Band-Aids through the portal. So I think that would give a little bit of glimmer of hope in a very, very grim, a very dark time in the Auburn fan base. I think that would be something that would be a shot in the arm. Great for the class. Think about what these guys are going through. I'm sure they're being called left and right to, hey, reconsider their commitment. Look at what's happening, negative recruiting, and all of it's understandable. All of them are really highly ranked kids. I mean, look at your number 4 class already. Right now, you're the number 4 class with 24 commitments. So there's some high-end dudes that could go play wherever they wanted to, and those places are calling them right now. So if you can jump in with a 5-star quarterback that's sort of their linchpin of the class, sort of their leader of the class, you think that would help galvanize your commitments to be even stronger, even more solid. So there's so many things about this at this point in time that are needed. It really are. So we'll see if it's a little bit different than that last time. I'll say the confidence is not just from the Auburn side. It does seem like even some of the unbiased media seem to be pointing that this may be moving in the right direction as well. So we'll see how it plays out. We've been through this before, but I do feel like this one's a little bit different this time. And hopefully, maybe by the time we're recording tomorrow's show, we've got a commitment on the board, or tomorrow or Friday, you got a commitment on the board. So we'll see what happens. I think it could be it's sorely needed. It's sorely needed right now. So hopefully they pull it off and go ahead and get that commitment on the board. So guys, I really appreciate it. You need to subscribe to the barnauburn.com. If you were subscribed, you'd already know all this. You'd be up to date. You'd understand all the different scenarios, all the different things that have gone into play in this recruitment. You wouldn't have gotten your hopes up every single weekend. You'd be in the loop. And it's the place to be. For only $1, you can try it out for $1 for your first month. It's a great investment. If you love it, great. If you don't, you're only out $1. So jump in the conversation, jump in the community. Let's have some good conversations and some fun, and make some friends at the same time. So guys, I really appreciate it. If you like this video, like it. If you like this channel, subscribe to it, share it with a friend, send it to 3 friends today. Send this show to 3 friends today and say, hey, y'all got to get on the train. Let's have some fun. And then follow me on Twitter, _Charlie_5. We'll be back every single day. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.